Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined once again by Anthony Torgrud.
The loyal, the one, the only, the cold, the bald. I'm here. Madison's not. He woke up on time and said, "Guys, can I please go back to bed?" And we said, "Yeah, you don't add anything anyways." That was rude. But that is how it went down, minus the dig at the end.
Yeah,
He has to go back to bed, and we said, "Sure." So yeah, he's not here.
said he slept badly. Sounds like a you problem, really. But I hope he's sleeping
Better than
better now.
sleeping Adley, you know.
Sloth Hadley. Yeah, so just me and you for this one then. You are the one that never failed, the one that couldn't fail, always here. And we've got quite a bit to talk about. 4 games to talk about. Well, 3 games and a game that should have been that wasn't. But that in itself might be the most interesting thing within the episode to talk about. But before we dive in, I'm going to do the thing where I go through the list of the Substack founding members. Everybody knows it well by now. I'll reverse it. Roberto Ricinos, Marco Villela, Tarek, JT Physio, Mike Schulz, Heavenly 13, Derek Favretto, Merlin Flinker, Nasser, Carlo Fassi, Rajat, Raul Escobar, Luke Villano, Mats, MJ, Kemin, Joey Gawler, Moritz Pullman, Tito, Matt, Des, Windsor, McGlynn. Thank you for your continued support over on the Substack and for being loyal founding members. You are more loyal than Maddie. So you can wear that as a badge of honor if you like. No podcast rating this week for Maddie as well, which is something that he's been, chelping on about a fair bit.
It might be his highest one.
Or does he get a 0 because he's not here? You can't rate something that wasn't there. Over on the Substack, in the past week, we are delighted to launch our new series, Pub Chat. It is with Lorenzo and Stefano, who everyone will know well from previous videos, previous podcasts. It is, as it says, we came up with the idea while we were literally in the pub, us 3 and then Isaac as well. And it will be where they're debating contentious topics to do with Milan, both past and present. For example, the first one this week was going back to the sale of Sandro Tonali and whether it was right to sell him, given that we've currently got an incomplete midfield and we're perhaps lacking a bit of identity. Well worth a listen. We've made the first one free, so you can go catch that on YouTube as well. But we're going to alternate from here on, so the next one will be Substack members only, and so forth. But no, really looking forward to seeing how that series goes down. And if you are part of the Discord chat, you can suggest topics for them to debate. So that promises to be fun. And you can only be in the Discord chat if you're a Substack member. The bonus podcast that me and Isaac did was around Milan Futuro and their dreadful start to the season. Of course, we did that. We did 30 minutes of picking apart the problems. What could have been done differently in the summer if the squad is up to it. And then they won at the weekend to claw out the relegation zone. So that's the way it goes. But, maybe we spurred them on. Maybe they listened to it and they were like, fuck these guys. We're going to go on a rampage. And they beat Perugia as well, who were like one of the bigger clubs in the league. So that was quite funny. The newsletter photo of the year was about that photo, which I'm sure you've all seen. And we're going to come on to it, of Francesco Kamada being hoisted up by his teammates after scoring what he thought was the youngest ever Champions League goal, him being the youngest scorer before VAR ruined everybody's fun. But yeah, all about that moment. Go on.
Oh, well, finish this actually. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's just about the moment within the game. And just dissecting that, some of the comments that were made afterwards, and within that is the news bulletin as well. So you basically get the 6 main stories from the previous week if you're not able to keep up with the site on a day-to-day basis. Do you want to ask the question now?
Yeah, so in the photo, you see a guy who's just very clearly not on the team, wearing a different Milan jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I was under the impression that was a Camarda family member. Was that just a random pitch invader?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was told, yeah.
So there's a hunt to try and find the guy that's been started on social media, and I don't think I'd want to be identified either, because I'm fairly sure it's an automatic banning order.
Well, from what I was told, he already has it, and now he has to check in with the Milan police every match day to say I will not be at the stadium. Yeah.
So
the non-goal.
Yeah, there was a rumor that started that it was Kamada's dad. It wasn't. It's way too young to be him.
Yeah, I assumed it was his brother.
Yeah. But Kamada's dad actually did run away from because he was with his mum, obviously. Apparently, just ran off when he scored his goal and went to like the front of the stand to kind of celebrate with everyone and with fans more so than like running onto the field or anything. But I'm yet to see a photo of that. But yeah, it's mad. There's just a guy, just a guy there in his khaki trousers and a Milan shirt, ready to jump in the huddle. But what a photo! Just a shame that what happened afterwards.
Didn't
But we'll
count.
come on to it. Yeah, it didn't count. Banning order for a disallowed goal. That's not good, is it? Finally, the bonus article that Isaac did last week was about the new partnership with the Democratic Republic of Congo. I'm not going to say any more than that because I think there's going to be a lot of people who are like, what? I haven't heard about this. Go look it up. We're going to have Democratic Republic of Congo as a shirt sponsor soon, it appears. So Isaac's done a really, really good job dissecting what that means, how the arrangement's going to work, because there's more to it, and of course some of the ethical side to it. So definitely go and read that. As always, try a week for free. Longest Substack plug ever. That it's over 6 minutes. All right, let's go. Club Brugge.
Okay.
The champions. So we knew we needed to win this one. We'd started with 2 defeats against Liverpool and Leverkusen, got Club Brugge, and then it's Real Madrid away, who got dipped by Barca in the Classico at the weekend, by the way. They were pretty dreadful in that second half. And then 4 easier games to finish, but we've got to aim for 15 points because of the 5 easier games on paper, and this had to be 3 of them. It was 3 of them. We scored 3 goals. They only scored 1. And by minute 70, 80, it was comfortable. But that doesn't tell the whole story. The scoreline doesn't tell the full picture of this game, because I, at full time, was not particularly impressed by what I'd just seen. I know people are going to say it's results first. It's Champions League. All teams are there on merit. You're going to get a good game from everybody. You're unlikely to walk over anybody, even though there have been some. But I didn't like it. I thought they were on top until we scored. Then they went down to 10, and it's like, brilliant. Just managed the game, 3 or 4, and happy days. But then they equalised. They kind of looked like the better team up until the brace from Reinders. But yeah, I didn't come away from this thinking that it answered many questions that we had.
Well, it seems like you read my talking points there. I know what people are gonna say. Yeah, those were the things I had jotted down. So let me wing it here and change my mind. I mean, you literally word for word.
All right, I'll change it up. That was amazing. I'm really happy with the win.
We're gonna get a game from everyone. So I mean, I guess we'll just go event by event, right?
Yeah.
Start off. I mean, not much happened in the opening 20. I think we had a few chances, but they were just kind of whatever. There wasn't a whole lot, and then we lined up for the corner kick. Pulisic scores an Olympico. Kind of fun little tidbit. So I watched Champions League in the office because it's obviously in the middle of the workday, and each game so far this Champions League season, I have said, calling it now, this one's an Olympico. Guess which one I didn't say it on?
Yeah. I think you need to stop saying it then.
Yeah. So that happened, and then it was very odd because I couldn't tell if it was at first or not. Like it looked like it, but then it looked like it didn't. It looked like maybe I think it was Tomori was it was Fofana was there.
There was somebody in there. It's Fofana usually who makes a near post run. Yeah,
it looked like it might have been Fofana. It might have been own goal, and then because one of the Bruges players does obviously kick it, but I couldn't tell it live if it was before or after it across the line. I guess it was after, so he got that. Great. And then red card immediately thereafter, and totally the right call. I mean, studs into the ankle. It was obvious.
Initially the right call. He gave a free kick to them, and then it got overturned. He gave a free kick to Bruges for the tackle that happened, and then there was a pause, and then he got called over to the monitor, and it was like, nope, it's the other way around, and it's a horror challenge. That was crazy.
I didn't know he gave the free kick to Bruges at first, honestly. But yeah, I mean, got it right in the end, so good with that.
That's what matters.
And then at halftime, 1-0 up. Not exactly comfortable, like you said, but definitely nothing to be mad at. We said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we should run away with this now. We're a goal up.
Mm.
We're going against 10 men. We should do fine. They score almost immediately into the second half, about 6 minutes in, and then right away, some substitutions came that were good ones. Okafor on for Loftus-Cheek, which moved. Oh, and then Chukwueze on for Leao. Now, taking Leao off was interesting because I think it was probably the best player of the first half in terms of just overall. I mean,
Making things happen, yeah.
yeah, like obviously he didn't get a goal. He had a good opportunity on one where he laid it off to Pulisic on the right when he was coming into the box, and it was a good shot as well, but it didn't go in. He had another opportunity where he made a run on the byline, cut it up, and then Loftus-Cheek missed. Um, that's a common trend. But then he was taken off. Didn't necessarily agree with it, but because of that, then Okafor went left wing, Chukwueze went right wing, Pulisic down the middle. And before Leao even finished, because he obviously has to get off the field at the nearest side to him, he's on the far
Mm-hmm.
side. He has to walk all the way around behind the goal. Before he's even to the goal, we scored. So that was awesome. Tijani,
Tishi.
Okafor. Yeah, I don't know. It's early. It's 6:17 in the morning.
Yeah, we're
Okafor
close
made the
by an hour.
exact run that everyone saw Liao make for Loftus-Cheek that he missed, but then Reinders was there to put it in. So 2-1, everyone's happy. They're celebrating. Liao's still walking off the pitch. And then 10 minutes later, exact same thing happened. I think it was from the other opposite side, though.
Mm-hmm.
Chukwueze had the assist. And then it was 3-1, and that was about it. Obviously, then Camarda came on late, scored an awesome header that was offside. Incredible
Oh, what a
moment,
header.
celebration. Um, the irony of getting a yellow card for celebrating a goal that doesn't count, just like getting a stadium ban for a goal that doesn't count. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, we kind of just went away with it. It was pretty simple after the third goal, I think.
It was, yeah, it was. But there's just something about this game that bugged me. Like, I think we're in a position, especially after losing the first two challenges that we faced to Liverpool and Leverkusen, where we need to build some trust in this team. They need to put in good performances on the European stage to show that if we do manage to get into the knockout rounds, which we should still, then we can actually do something in it and not just get bumped at the first opportunity. And I'm afraid this again was a game where I'm not feeling any more confident about that. No, it sounds strange after a 3-1 win, and you look at the last half. You can look at the last 20 minutes of the game and say it was all under control. But prior to that, it never was. And this is a Club Brugge side that are really, really hit and miss in the league. Like they're fourth in the league, and they probably should win it with their budget and their players. And they rocked us. They should have taken the lead inside 2 minutes. Maignan made a really good save with his legs to deny Solis. Then he made another save from the same guy, a curler that was going in the far corner. Onyedika hit the crossbar with a shot from 20-something yards out. Then he made another save with his legs, Maignan. He made 4 saves in the first half alone. Our defence was getting breached constantly. We scored. I ain't going to call it a lucky goal because we've been working on our set pieces, and that is one in particular. Pulisic bending it in with his right, attacking the near post. We've already scored a couple of times from it. Pavlovic and Fofana. You've got to put in a quality delivery to enter the raffle of potentially scoring a set piece goal, and it just so happened that was literally on target. Mignolet maybe could have done better with it. For some reason, he was like back in his goal, like a couple of yards back from the line, which was strange. But yeah, he could only flap it in. So that was good. That should be the moment that calms everything down. They go down to 10 for what was a silly tackle. Ironically, Onyedika was the one that we nearly signed in the summer of 2022 when we'd lost Kessie. We signed CDK instead. Bruges used that money to sign Onyedika. Would have been funny if he'd scored against us with that rocket. But yeah, instead he decides to plant his studs into Reinder's ankle. No complaints about the red card. This sounds mad because it was a silly tackle and he put his team in a worse situation and stuff. But I felt sorry for him because like when the red card was given, he couldn't even contest it. He just looked distraught, like on the verge of tears, knowing what it meant for the game. But yeah, probably don't go in with your studs would be my advice. Then they equalise. Like they made a change at right back. Because the guy who was on initially, Leao, absolutely took him to task. He beat him 9 times in the first half. He completed 9 dribbles. The problem, and this sparked a lively debate in our group chat, was that there was no end product from Leao, barring one cutback. That was actually in the second half, that Loftus-Cheek and Reinders kind of get in each other's way. RLC tries to get there first. He should have just left it. But, you know, that was the one that connected. The rest, Leao got himself into really good positions, but he never seemed to look up for his options. And sometimes the options weren't presented to him either. But you complete 9 dribbles to get into good positions and nothing comes. And then Okafor does that within a minute. You know, it's... but yeah, they subbed their right back because he was on a yellow card from fairly early on in the first half. And the substitute right back was a teenager who came on. With 10 men, Bruges passed it from the left side, through our box, over to the right side. Teo's in no man's land around the penalty spot. Leao hasn't tracked back. He's literally just watched the right back run into the box and didn't track back. And he buries it to make it 1-1. And I'm thinking, oh shit, we're in trouble here because the crowd are going to turn. You know, they're not going to be happy with this, and rightly so. But their manager admitted that sort of doing that and pushing for that equaliser, they ran out of battery around the hour, and you could see it. They got a bit more tired, and we got a bit more joy down the flanks. But yeah, Okafor comes on, instant impact, shows what happens when you pick your head up and actually look for a man rather than just drill it into a general area. Nice finish from Reinders too, because we've seen him whiff at those before. And then a identical goal. I'd say a more impressive dribble from Chukwueze because he does that thing where he lifts it over the sliding challenge and then darts in. And a better finish from Reinders for that too. He hits it right in the corner rather than down the middle of the goal like his first goal was. But yeah, that was it then. Job done. And the Kamada goal would have been a fantastic bit of, you know, it would have been the cherry on the icing on the cake and a moment that we'd never forget and that kind of thing. But yeah, when the full-time whistle went, I was just like, that doesn't tell me much, I'm afraid. Like, we've beaten a team that we should have beaten, and we made it more difficult than it should have been. Maybe I'm being cynical there, but again, I'm just in this mindset of like, this team needs to show us something. Like, they need to handle a team. You know, you beat Udinese 1-0. Okay, we were down to 10 men, but that didn't really settle too much. We need to get some momentum going into the Napoli game and the Real Madrid game, so we feel like we're confident we can fight against anybody. It just wasn't really that. I thought it was a little bit flat. The subs injected the life that we need, and I think Fonseca deserves praise for making the changes that he did. However, I haven't seen anything yet from those first 3 games that suggests we can go deep in the Champions League. And maybe that's just realistic anyway. Maybe our team isn't good enough to rival the top teams in Europe just yet. But I was clinging on to a bit of hope, and it isn't there yet. But yeah, am I being too negative?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, good.
I don't think it was the world's worst performance. I mean,
No.
yes, was it the most convincing? Okay, probably not. The most convincing would have been 5-0, but like I don't know. I'm never going into a game saying, okay, we need to win 5-0. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Like you said earlier, results first. Because we didn't have a bad performance. You know, it wasn't like it was groundbreaking, and that's okay. Not every game has to be, but at no point do I, outside of the 9 minutes that it was 1-1, there was really no time where I think people were looking at this game like, Milan's in trouble. You know, I mean, the momentum graph for this game was all us. Could we have done more? Absolutely. But I don't think doing more was a necessity for a good game. I think we still looked good at the end of the day, and I'm happy with it. I'm fine.
Maybe I'm being too cynical in the sense that like I expect our standards to be very high right now, when really, because of the start to the season we've had, they perhaps need to gradually raise to a point where, you know, we hit a big game like Real Madrid and we feel a bit better about it, rather than just instantly 6-0 in a team and you know, because that's another thing. If we'd have absolutely rolled them over, then people would have probably taken less from it again because of the level of opponent and stuff. They gave us a good game. That's all I'll say. And I think credit to Bruges. They didn't come to defend like I thought they would. They had us rattled before the first goal. They had us rattled with the equaliser. And yeah, I mean, I don't know where they'll finish. Probably will be in the bottom 8, maybe. But I think they can be at least a bit.
Where are they at right now in it? Do you know?
They've
One
won a
position
game.
below us.
Yeah, they won against was it Sturm Graz away? I think in the game before us.
It was 1-0.
Yeah, and they got beaten fairly comfortably in their first game. But yeah, there's some talent there. I think they're always going to be a team that brings through some talent. But that Solis in particular looked lively. Onyedika was good until he got sent off. The two fullbacks who were like 19. All right. Yeah, that's it. I guess we just go tops and flops, and we put this one in the book as a European win that we needed. Also, one more thing before we do that, there was 55,000 there, and it was an early kickoff, and I think that sometimes, especially with the Curva protesting, I think that sometimes makes it quite a difficult atmosphere to play in for the players because it was flat. It was flat. And maybe that contributed a little bit into taking some time to get going. But yeah, it's fine. We can put a win in the win column, and that's okay. We can move on. Man of the match for me. I want to say. I think you're going to say who I want to say. So I'm going to offer an alternative viewpoint. Mike Maignan. I think he was really important, not just in terms of the fact he made 4 saves, and they were 4 good saves to keep us level or ahead in one case. But also, he was really, really important in the build-up, and he pinged a couple of very, very impressive long balls. In fact, he was 4 out of 4 on long balls, and I believe he had 100% pass completion, 38 out of 38. So that was really good. He was basically playing as an extra centre back in build up, and because they were pressing at the start, it gave us an important outlet, I think. So I'll go with Maignan. I also think perhaps part of it is the season he's had so far. I'm just happy to see him back to a consistently high level. And he could do nothing really about the goal either. He was let down by his defence. So I'll go with Maignan, and you're going to go with
Reinders. You get a brace to win a Champions League game. You're the man of the match. Don't care if they're 20-yard tap-ins or not,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's which they were, just to clarify, because every goal is when you deep it.
Exactly.
The thing about Reinders is that, we know how important he is to us. Unfortunately, he's going to be suspended for the Napoli game along with Teo, and we know how that feels to us. We feel like it's a bad situation because it is. He's become undroppable to us. However, I think we all also admitted that while ever he's lacking a bit in terms of end product, particularly scoring goals, he's never going to be fully complete. I think with those 2 goals, he showed that he can become that complete midfielder. There were 2 good finishes first time, making smart runs into the box and exploiting the space. If he can do more of that, he can definitely score the same amount of goals that RLC did last season. Definitely. With that, though, he doubled his tally of goals for us. He went from 2 to 4.
Wow.
Yeah, so there you go. Flop of the match. Tough. I think the defense looked pretty.
Who was at fault for their goal?
It was remember. A collective calamity. They basically worked it through the box and were allowed to pass it off to the right back who had made a forward run. I'm going to say Teo for the flop of the match because he's serving a 2-game suspension, so he had a game of rest and came into this, and you're sort of looking for him to be a difference maker on nights like this. Considering level of opponent a little bit as well. And if anything, eyes were pointing at him because he was all over the place for their goal. He ends up in the middle, stood next to 2 other defenders. Maybe you could say that he tracked the run of the right winger, and it was Leao's job to track the right back's push upfield. I think you can make a solid case for that. I just think that sometimes you can perhaps play the zones rather than go quite literally man to man because it left acres of space on his side of the box. So I'll go with Teo, but yeah, it was just a lot. It was like a sea of 6 out of 10 performances, really.
Yeah, I'm torn between two players, Loftus-Cheek and Gabia. Reason for Gabia is, and this is all cop out. I'm looking at stats. 3 out of 5 duels lost, and 3 fouls committed. Got a yellow card, and that's it. Only 1 block. He didn't do. I guess he just didn't produce a whole lot. And out of the 4 defenders, his stats were the worst. Loftus-Cheek is more of just eye test because the pushback Liao has received from this game is all Loftus-Cheek's fault for
Not
not
burying
even
that chance.
getting a exactly. So, a little guilty by association there. So, one of those two, whoever the comments want to go with, is fine.
Yeah, Emerson struggled with Solace in the first half, and Morata was really quiet as well. I thought like this should be a bread and butter game for him, really, to use his experience and his, everything he's accrued over the years. But he just hasn't. Yeah, he's not been brilliant the last few games, Morata, to be honest. So there was a few that were just subpar, but no absolute disasters. And I think in a game like this, that gets you through. All right, let's move on to the Bologna review. Which has become a preview again. Well, where do we begin?
That I didn't put a.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess this is a talking point. So let's start. Let's do this chronologically. So Thursday night in the build up. I say build up to the game. Obviously, it's the eve of the preparations for the game. So when the team would do the press conference, final training session, travel. So it's a Thursday night. The news comes out that there's a risk of the game being postponed because they had and were expecting more adverse weather in Bologna. They have had some flooding in certain parts of the city, and they were expecting for the area around the stadium to flood too, whether that's because it's in a valley or something. I don't know it geographically well enough, or geologically, whatever it would be. So yeah, it went, from everybody expecting the game's going to be played as normal to there's a high risk of it being postponed. And then throughout Friday, various bits of conflicting news come out. First of all, that the mayor of Bologna, a guy called Matteo Lepore, has signed an ordinance to try and get the game postponed. He can't formally sign a document to postpone the game, but what he did is sign a document saying the stadium can't be used, basically, which he can do as the mayor of the city. But then the league and the two teams scramble because they wanted to play the game. So the idea of playing it behind closed doors emerged as a possibility. Then there were, at one point, there were 4 different trips booked by Milan and the staff and the team manager and everybody. Obviously, one to Bologna to play it there, one to Empoli to play it at their stadium, one to Como, obviously just up the road, and one to Verona even. So there were 3 different neutral venues talked about for a behind closed doors game. Gets to mid-afternoon on Friday, so you're like 24 hours before kickoff at this point, and the idea of postponement becomes the main one again because we're running out of time to get it all sorted. Lega Serie A meeting, they talk about it. The mayor is on the phone to them, pleading with them to get the game called off. And in the end, they postponed the game to a later date, which is looking like being in February at the earliest because of how hectic the schedule is until then.
I saw Christmas Day was the
Oh
earliest.
yeah, that's what the Lega president Cassini said. I don't see that happening, to be honest. I just don't.
Yeah, I really hope not.
No,
Maybe
yeah, me too, from a
early.
work standpoint, because like we actually celebrate it on Christmas Day, whereas in
Yeah.
Italy they celebrate it on the 24th, I think. It's a bit of a strange custom, but yeah. God, do you want to rant first?
Yeah, so it's bullshit. It's total
Yeah,
bullshit. Because on that Thursday there was light rain in Bologna. On Friday there was no rain in Bologna. On Saturday, game day, it was sunny. Um, if there was flooding on Wednesday, it was gone. Like it was perfectly fine. You could have gone
it
in
was
there.
dry.
The Bologna boxing match went on. The auto show that had 200,000 attendees went on. The Bologna Primavera game played. So why this? Why this one? Well, as per usual in Italy and Italian football, the mayor has tweets saying "Forza Napoli." So why he wants to postpone this. And by the way, we have two of our best players suspended for this game. If there ever was a time to play Milan, is now. So Bologna
Yeah.
should have hopped all over that, but instead they desperately want it out, and now we miss those for the toughest match against league leaders Napoli, who is the mayor of Bologna's supported club. I don't know how
Yeah,
that's going well.
yeah, all right. I'll cut that off quickly because he never tweeted Forza Napoli, but people found tweets where he'd clearly been on like a vacation to Naples, and he tweeted saying how beautiful it is. So it was more like I guess, you know, I don't know, they're inferring that he has a soft spot for the place.
So I fell for fake
Eh,
news.
but still, I mean, it doesn't look particularly brilliant. Sorry,
Yeah,
carry on.
okay. Well, that's news to me. This is what happens when you don't fact check things, but it makes
It's not
rants more
important.
exciting. Yeah, you don't need to.
Yeah,
There aren't facts here. Come on now, you guys have
libel's
watched
fine.
long enough.
Yeah, he's not gonna watch.
Even if you, I mean, whatever. I'm not going to attack the people of Italy on that one, but I had something ready. Um, so yeah, all these things. Now, why the neutral ground wasn't played? I don't know. If the league wanted it, Milan wanted it. Supposedly, Bologna wanted it. Why would it not get played? If we had these three other stadiums lined up, what is the reasoning for not? Is it
Mm,
just the mayor wants money for the city because the city owns the stadium
mm.
and it wanted match day revenue? Um, that's bullshit.
Yeah,
To me,
yeah.
it should be a forfeit. Like if everyone's in favor of doing this besides Bologna and their little cuck of a mayor, then then they should be punished. We've seen this
Yeah, yeah.
before where there were forfeits for that. Like when Napoli didn't play Juventus because of some local ordinance, they were forced to forfeit, and then eventually it did get overturned and they played the game. Um, so maybe they're using that as the precedent, which now that I say it out loud actually makes sense. But fuck them, I don't want that. Like
Fuck precedents.
it's just the suspension should at least stay to where they should have been, right? Like I don't know. I just feel like it puts us at such a major disadvantage after disadvantage, and it's not fair.
Mm,
That's it.
yeah,
That's my rant. Yeah.
yeah. You touched on basically everything there. I found probably the funniest thing of it all the massive spike in traffic that the Bologna webcam got. There
I
must be
watched.
like a few viewers normally, and yeah, I went on and there was over 1,000 people.
Hmm.
Watching this webcam, which I can presume are all Milan fans. Like, the fuck is going on here? It's
Yeah.
dry. They should have just put a rain filter over it. Like,
Yeah.
don't be idiots. And then there was like a few Milan fans who obviously live in Bologna and were tweeting pictures. Like, it is bone dry here. Like,
Yeah.
the area around the stadium. There's nothing wrong with it at all. And look, I get it. Sometimes you can get reports from meteorologists and stuff that are incorrect. And if you've already had flooding in other parts of the city, which there were, like there's active fundraising ongoing for flood victims, then you're worried about it happening again. And there's 35,000 fans going to be there, so it does become a public order issue. But the problem that this it generates a bad precedent in the sense that like you've got a mayor who's got a game postponed, and he's acted above his station by doing so. You know, I don't understand. I don't understand why the league and I guess the clubs to an extent took him signing that ordinance as well. We can't play the game then, or we need to find a solution to play this game. For me, it's like, okay, he's done that, let's keep the game on for now, but let's explore further what that means. And
Yeah.
instead, it was just like, all right, we're just going to let mayors start calling games off now, then, without consulting anybody. I gather that
Yeah.
he didn't inform anybody. He just signed the thing, and now it's like, it was around 48 hours before the game, maybe less. Everything's up in the air. As you say, the boxing event, the motor show, the Primavera game. Admittedly, the Primavera game, and I gather the boxing, not as big attendances, but still, it just looks terrible because other major events in the city, sporting events, have been allowed to continue. I think
What
that
they should have done, and which is what happens all the time, is they show up to the pitch, and if it's raining and it's torrential, then they cancel it. Like,
yes,
why? I mean, if there's access to the stadium, which I don't care what they said, if there's flood in the area, but it's been bone dry for 3 consecutive days, it's gone. It's
mm,
good. You know, they
mm.
they could get in.
Pitch was fine.
Especially, yeah, pitch was fine. You drive a bus, so you're not going to be swimming. Like, you'll be fine if there's a little water on the road.
Yeah.
It's reeks of conspiracy, and I'm all for it. So
Let's
yeah,
go with it.
this is a campaign against Milan. You know, that's what it is. It always has been, always will be. It's us against
Mm.
the world, and yeah.
I
No,
think
but go ahead.
I was going to say any notion as well that Bologna actually wanted the game to be played was because people have been painting Bologna, the football club, as victims in this as well. But any idea that they wanted the game to be played too was basically kiboshed by their CEO, who came out and said, I'll just read the quotes because I've got the article up. There's an objectively difficult situation in the area surrounding the stadium. Brackets, it objectively wasn't. It was fine, but whatever. Some structures have also collapsed. Don't think there were any around the stadium, but fine. There are objective situations that made it difficult to play the match in Bologna, aside from the solidarity with the families in our area. The postponement seems to me like the wisest choice because it allows us to protect the match proceeds, part of which will be donated to the people affected. So you want to postpone a game that was going to bring in money for flood victims, and now the game's going to be in February, which is 5 months down the line. It just didn't add up to me. It did not add up.
Yeah, look, the charity thing's bullshit. You know, the victims need money immediately. They need support right away. If it was as bad as it was, if their house was swept away in flood, their shit collapsed, what is a few €100 going to do in 5 months? Give it to
Mm.
them now. Make your donation. Play the damn game. Like, and also he said parts of the proceeds, which means again, this is all money motivated by them. They didn't want the neutral ground because they wanted the match day revenue for themselves. That's it. It's as
Yeah,
simple
it
as
is.
that.
Yeah. And I understand. So I understand that the supporters are the ones who get punished in this because you bought a season ticket or whatever. You want to go to the game, right? If you're a diehard Bologna fan, you want to be there because it's a big game. It's against
Mhm.
Milan. Should be a great atmosphere. And from the club's point of view, 35,000 fans expected. It'll be one of their higher priced games of the season, you'd imagine, for those who buy tickets
Yeah.
on match day and away fans and stuff. So I get it. Like the club and the fans and the players, perhaps because they want to play in front of a home atmosphere, they're the ones that are punished. It is logistically not ideal. However, the massive fallout that has come off the back of it. When are we going to play this? The farce of all the neutral venues. The fact that we were so ready and willing to play, the league wanted it playing. Like you're balancing the scales here, and I just don't. I think they had to find a way to get this game played.
How long do you think it takes to lay down a new pitch?
As in, like, physically relay turf.
Yeah, like how many games played before you have to swap out the turf, you
I
think?
think. Well, I think Milan tend to do some kind of because San Siro's pitch has been obviously historically bad. Sometimes they've had to returf it in the middle of a season when there's been a gap in games. I think they resod it at the end of each season, and then they fully relay it a bit less frequently like
Yeah.
that, once every 3 years maybe. But they've started relaying it more and more because obviously it gets a lot of use.
Mhm.
But in terms of
So,
actual time to do it, I guess a few days.
oh, you think it'd be a few days? Okay.
Yeah, I'd say
I
so.
feel like it would be like at that level, professional level, it shouldn't take more than a couple hours, in my opinion.
Mm.
Just
Well, you got to.
basing
So
it off of
so
NFL stadiums and how modern and advanced they are and how quickly they do it for every single game, um, I would assume there's at least some sort of technological advancement in the rest of the world. Maybe I'm wrong, but my solution, which saves everyone, is it was Saturday. Inter and Juventus played on Sunday. Just swap the home and away. Give our home match to them, and we take theirs.
Mhm.
Everyone gets their revenue. Well, it's
Yeah,
all
that
good.
was something that was spoken about. It's not actually allowed within the league rules to do that.
Oh,
The
boo-hoo.
the home and away games, they have to stay in order. Otherwise, I guess it counts as manipulation of the schedule. But I agree. Like, can we not just apply a bit of common sense here?
Yeah.
Inter and Juve would have said no to that, though. For what it's worth, they'd have. And we know that this is the thing. It all boils down to, and what pissed a lot of people off, me included. We seem to have absolutely zero political weight within the Serie A Council. You know, basically the decision whether or not to play the game got put to a vote, and there was some speculation, and I say speculation because we weren't in the meeting. Only people in it know, from La Repubblica, that the Claudio Lotito, who's one of the most influential within it, the Lazio president, and a historic ally of Aurelio De Laurentiis, obviously the Napoli owner and president, there was a bit of conspiring to vote in a particular way, and that was to get the game called off. And we know what that means for Napoli. It means they face us with us having two less key players. Apparently, Scaroni abstained in the vote. Now, I can understand why, because it's a sensitive issue that he might feel like he doesn't want to be seen to be voting against the flood victims or whatever. I get it. It's a little bit, you got to think about it, but you haven't voted, and your club's getting fucked over as a result. You
Yeah,
know,
I didn't know he didn't vote.
um,
That's
it was
ridiculous to me.
it was a majority in favour of postponing the game. So I don't know if one vote would have made a difference, and I don't know if it was like 51-49 needed or if it was a bit more than that. But yeah, in my opinion, what needed to happen was kind of what you said. I think the league needed to overrule the mayor and say, we plan to play the game at the Renato Dall'Ara, Bologna Stadium, at 6 p.m. local time on Saturday. Teams, you've got to show up, and then see what happens. You know, like, that's the plan. The game's going ahead. We're going to play it. If as a mayor you want to put in some kind of thing that means fans can't attend, that's not to do with us. You know,
Yeah.
that's like a local safety issue. However, we've got to maintain the regularity of the league and the season, and we're going to play this game. And then, yeah, if somebody doesn't show up, then it becomes a forfeit situation. The thing for me is, as well, I do feel a bit of sympathy for Bologna as the club and the players, because they were left in the dark and confused about it too. However, we can't be the ones punished for your mayor. You know, that's what's happened here.
Well, and I think it's
We
irresponsible
should
to even
just,
leave it up to a vote. Like, what does Latito have to do with this situation? Fuck all, other than, oh, Milan
his
doesn't play a
friend.
game, so now we get an advantage. It only helps every single rival club, which are those voting? Why are they voting? The
Hmm.
ones who should get a say, the league, Milan, Bologna. That's it. That's it.
Hmm.
Why does Napoli get a say? Why does Lazio get a say? Why does Inter get a say? Why does everyone else get a say? It doesn't fucking
It's
affect
not to
you.
do with them. Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you. And if you vote yes, everyone knows that it's a disadvantage to a direct rival. And that's why they're going to always vote yes to postponing. It's,
Hmm.
I don't know. They say it's fair to give it to a vote. And on paper, that makes sense. But we all know that's bullshit. We know that's not the
Also,
reality.
yeah, totally agree. And also, something came out yesterday, and I think it's worth mentioning, even if it wasn't a source like Sky. I need to find it. I think it was Core Sport or Coursera. Yeah, Core Sport said that Milan were willing to donate 250,000 euros in cash to the flood victims if the game was to be played behind closed doors.
There you
So
go.
if that was your whole thing about the flood, there you go. You know,
Yep.
I get it. It sucks for your fans. It really does. But it's such a bad situation in Bologna at that time. They're not worried about the football. They're worried about their house getting washed away, aren't they? It's that bad. Whole thing fucking stinks, mate.
I'm very curious to see once the game happens how much actually gets donated to the floods, because if it's equal to or
50%
less
is
than
what
that,
they're saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
If it's
Yeah.
equal or less, then we all see. But
Yeah, well, they can't do it for that game in February. They're going to have to just move it to the next home game that they donate the proceeds for, Otherwise, as you say, what good is it a few months down the line? Everything will be
yeah,
rebuilt. All that, and I don't want to get any comments like I do send thoughts and because I think people have died because of it, the flooding and stuff. I do genuinely, like the victims of it and stuff, send thoughts and prayers and things like that. It's just irritating that Italian bureaucracy seems to get in the way of common sense, but we're used to it by now. What's the solution? Not to that game, but what can we do for vengeance? We go and beat Napoli on Tuesday night, tomorrow night. That's what we do. But we don't have three pretty important
well, we're not
players.
gonna do it. We're gonna lose.
Yeah, that's what we should do. We will not do it. Gabbia injured, sustained an injury. And it sounded like he had some calf discomfort, and he's aggravated it by perhaps playing when he shouldn't have done, and he's made it worse in training. Basically, not only expected to miss the Napoli game, but also Monza and potentially Real Madrid too. So that's not good. He's out. Teo's suspended, as we know, and I agree with you. By the way, I think the suspension should just apply for the game that it said it was going to apply for.
Yeah, especially in the event of a postponement.
Yeah, exactly. And Reinders is the other one, of course. He got a red card in a game. Look, the flip side to it is don't get a red card because there's no guarantee what games it's going to apply for. Like, quite literally, we've seen there is no guarantee that it's going to apply for those games. Yeah, but anyway, we are without those three. How do we replace them? I'm guessing it's going to be Tomori.
Pavlovic, probably.
Yeah.
Who else do we have? I mean,
Chow Pavlovic looked okay in the Udinese game. There was a nice mix of height, physicality, but I don't think we need that against Napoli. I actually think Tomori's had some of his best games against Napoli as well.
Yeah, I would keep Tomori because we know how Conte is going to play, and I just think Zhao's too slow for that. So I would do Tomori and Pavlovic. Pavlovic is going to get a red card. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, against Lukaku. I'd put Pavlovic on Lukaku and say make it really hard for him.
It has been. Lukaku's been awful this season, but neither here nor there.
I think he'd be our top scorer. But yeah, agreed. Fuck him. I guess, and then sorry. I guess it'd be Terracciano on the left.
Yeah, why'd you bring it to me for that one? Yeah, it'll be.
Because I know you love him.
It'll be him next.
Yeah, and in midfield,
probably
RLC or Musa.
Yeah, I think Musa is a better pick, but I think he's going to go RLC.
Yeah, I do too. I think.
Does this though force him to play Christian as an attacking mid with Chukwueze on the right?
It does. I think it does. Yeah,
could be a silver lining, a little blessing in disguise.
I don't know which way it would go. I really don't. Like, in my head, I'm thinking you probably could play a 4-3-3. You probably could play both of Musa and ILC, but then you've not got anything on the bench, unfortunately. That's how weak the depth is there. So I don't think he'll do that. I think Fofana RLC is what he'll go with because they're perhaps a more complementary pairing. Whereas Musa would probably be the deputy to Fofana at the moment, even though there's not like a full overlap in their abilities. I think I was reading some reports before we started saying that RLC has a slight advantage, but it's very much still an open battle. We'll see. Either way, I'm not particularly thrilled about the situation we've got in midfield for a game like this, where it could be won and lost, because they play a 3-5-2 and they pack out the midfield. Yeah. We know how much Conte teams use it. And then
there's some talk of Leao. Just knowing about how the Reinders red card even came about when everyone agrees it was a bullshit red. And now he has the most punishing miss of the season. It's very frustrating.
Certainly looking at the table, and this is where I guess we come on to Napoli. 22 points from 9 games. They started with a 3-0 defeat away at Verona. We're all talking, will Conte last until Christmas? They're benefiting from not having European football without a doubt, playing once a week effectively. And they're grinding out some wins. They beat Lecce 1-0 at home on Saturday. So they're not blowing everybody out of the water. However, they're solid. They seem to be very, very solid, and that's what you get from a Conte team. They're 4 points clear at the top by virtue of the Inter v Juve draw last night, which, by the way, we should briefly mention. What a game.
Yeah, 4-4. Incredible.
Yeah, they're normally
Watch.
horrendous games. 1-0, 1-1, 0-0. I think it's the worst game in Italy, really, when it comes to the
Yeah.
big ones. Maybe the Rome derby can sometimes be a bit wank as
I
well.
turned it on in the 40th minute because it was 3-2 or something like that, and I
3-2.
was like, "Fucking hell, okay."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't plan on watching that game typically ever because of well,
how
why?
bad it is.
Why
Yeah,
do I wanna watch my 2 least favorite teams go head to head? I don't
yeah,
I
yeah.
hope the stadium floods typically,
I like.
but
I like hate watching and hoping for a 0-0. Or I
yeah.
guess the best alternative is a 4-4, where both teams are like, "What the fuck have we just
That
seen?
is
We
honestly
can't
the best alternative
defend."
because then they're exhausted too, like, you have to go all out to get a 4-4. A 0-0,
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, it's fun, but then you have to watch a 0-0.
yeah,
Like,
and they'll all be
I
like,
don't wanna see
"We were
that.
solid," and and I quite like the meltdown of especially with Inter 4-2 up.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and,
yeah,
Juve have, only conceded 1 goal in the season at this point, and then
mm,
there's 4, so that's always good to see too.
yeah, yeah, and means they both drop points. So we're now 3 from Juve, 4 from
And
Inter,
we
obviously
didn't
with
pick
that
up
game
any
in
because
hand.
our game was postponed.
God, I hope we just appeal for a forfeit and then just fling ourselves up the table. Yeah. Anyway, Napoli are doing all right. They're top. Fair play to them. Will they hang on? We'll wait and see. Just looking at the game that they played against Lecce, they're down as a 4-3-3 formation, which is interesting because I thought Conte was a 3 at the back merchant, but got Meret in goal. Di Lorenzo, who should have been sent off against Lecce, should have been sent off. If you haven't seen that, check it out on our site. There's an article. It was a foul on Rebic, and he was already yellow card, and it was right on the edge of the box, and the ref didn't give him a second yellow card. But whatever. Rahmani and Bongiorno, centre back pairing, Oliveira left back, and Gisa, Gilmore, McTominay midfield trio. Gilmore McTominay is mad as a watcher of English football as well. Like McTominay
Yeah.
hounded out of United despite being okay, like a bit of a passion merchant, and Gilmore I've never really rated that much, to be honest. Was like a hot prospect, I guess, and yeah, he's at Napoli now. Neres, Lukaku, and Ngonge as the front
Gosh.
three. And they brought on Politano, Raspadori, Kvaratskhelia, and Folarunshu. Surely Kvara wasn't 100% fit, and that's why he was not starting on the bench. Like, he's going to start against us, right?
Yeah, I'm sure he was just resting for us.
Yeah. Although he doesn't normally do so well against us.
Do we think Calabria plays?
Yeah, fuck it. Why not? That's the game you're throwing back in for,
It's
isn't
the
it?
only game he
Do that
shows up
again.
for.
Do that again. Show him highlight reels of the Champions League duel and the the 4-0 game as well. That was a belter. So yeah, how do we feel about this one? I'm genuinely pessimistic. Not to be edgy, I can just see them doing a job on us. I think those 3 absences are massive. There's still too many doubts about us, and I think Conte can fairly comprehensively outcoach Fonseca. But I can see it being a tight game. They'll play for it to be a low event game, and I think they'll beat us 1-0.
Yeah, I am not as confident as you. I think it's going to be a lot worse. Yeah, I think they're just going to beat us on the counter too easily because I think we know that that's probably like this is not a team that you counter against. This is a team that's going to sit back. It's going to be very calculated, and that's going to force us to push forward. And when you push forward, you leave yourself open. And then when you have a makeshift back line and a makeshift midfield, shit doesn't go your way. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a 2-0 or a 3-0, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's sad that we're thinking that way because I feel like they've beaten us a couple of times at San Siro in like the last few years, but just generally speaking, it feels like we've kind of had Napoli's number, even in
Yeah.
the season that they romped to the Scudetto. We knocked them out of the Champions League. We beat them 4-0 away. But yeah, for this one, the Conte factor is big. I just. But one thing I will say is, if we win this game, I don't really care how it comes. If we win this game with our absences, with all the chaos of the Bologna game, with how good Napoli have been, with it being Conte, if we would get 3 points from this, I'd keep Fonseca to the end of the season no matter what, because
Yeah, I thought we were already
he'll have
there.
outcoached and Inzaghi and that team, and he will have done a job on Napoli with 3 pretty big absences. You're right, maybe that's not a hot take, but I just think that would be another sign of him, like, taking a step and
Yeah.
the group mentally proving that they can overcome hurdles like that. I just don't see a repeat of the derby.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all were definitely at a point where it was like, okay, he's done, that's it. But we both were also at the beginning of the season, prior to even the great preseason, pretty confident that he was going to do a decent job. I predicted we'd win the Scudetto. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. Um, but we both were like, yeah, I don't think Fonseca is a bad coach. I don't think it's even a bad hire. It wasn't who we wanted. It wasn't the guy at the top of the list, but it definitely wasn't a guy that we all thought, this is a mistake. So while definitely had that moment where I was like, okay, Fonseca's done.
Mm.
I think he could bounce back, and I think the team is learning and growing under him. It's just a matter of how much and how fast, and that's what's going to determine it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're a bit pessimistic going into this one. Go out and prove us wrong. I guess we've got a bit of extra rest in the legs. That's something. But let's wait and see. I think it would be a statement win if we won, but we would fall 11 behind them in the table if we lost.
Yeah.
With a game in hand, so I guess it could be 8.
And this starts Napoli's hardest run of games as
Yeah.
well. Like,
Yeah, it's
they
a
have
litmus
had
test.
a very simple season up to this point, having only played one big game, being Juventus, which was a 0-0 draw. But
Mm-hmm.
now they play us tomorrow, and then Atalanta on Sunday, and then
Mm-hmm.
Inter the week after, and then international break. But then coming right back and playing Roma, which is probably a win for them, but it's one of their bigger rivals. Roma is not doing
Yeah.
well, but I think still it's a big game. So for
It's
them, they
yeah.
have to be, top form to get through this run without dropping
Mm-hmm.
any points. And I think they will drop points during this, even if it's just a couple draws, they're going to drop points.
Yeah, agreed. Let's move on to Napoli. To Monza, sorry. Christ, Monday. So Monza this season, obviously they lost Palladino to Fiorentina, who murdered Roma last night. Crikey. They're in shit. There's talk of Roma sacking Juric and bringing De Rossi back, which is wow.
Crazy.
Like,
Yeah.
that's the sort of thing you hear with Udinese or
Or
like
Genoa.
Cremonese. Yeah, just like sacking managers, bringing back the old one. Not a club like that, but anyway, quite enjoying that. They're in the bottom half. Monza struggling under Ale Nesta, Milan legend, of course, who got the job. They are they're 2 points clear of the relegation zone, but they're in 16th place with 8 points from 9 games. They'd have probably banked on yesterday being a home win against Venezia. However, they twice went behind and had to come back for a 2-2 draw. All 4 goals in the first half in that one. So, yeah, but they're just not doing too hot this season so far. They're playing a 3-4-2-1 according to this particular app. They've still got some names in the team, man. Like Armando Izzo at centre back, who of course was at Torino. Pablo Mari, who was at Udinese. They've got Warren Bondo in midfield, who scored against us when we lost to them last season, and he got sent off in the last game. So that means that nope, I'm guessing they play midweek as well, so he'll serve his
Yeah,
suspension. Then
Atalanta.
Pessina. Oh, yeah, that's not going to be good, is it? They won 6-1 as well. That was mad. They were 6-1 up after like 50 minutes. Pessina in midfield for them too, of course, ex-Milan and Atalanta. Danny Motta, Caprari, Milan Juric up front, who scored against us for Salernitana back in the day. Christ, like, this has to be a win, man. I'm sorry, but I know we've struggled a little bit against them. Like that defeat last season was embarrassing when Daniel Maldini and Bondo scored and we lost 4-2. That's when you thought that it was the end, maybe.
Right,
But
yeah.
has to be a win.
Yeah, Monza, dude, they're not well. They're in 16th. They are 2 points above relegation right now. They have one win. They play midweek against Atalanta on Wednesday, so they have one less day of
Ooh,
rest against us. We get
yeah.
all 3 of our players, well, both of our suspensions back, potentially even Gabia from injury. Depending on what happens against Napoli, we're going to be going into this one with the chip on our shoulder. And I think you're going to see a runaway here. I think we're going to actually show up and do work. I think this is just the perfect storm for a weak Monza side. Less rest, constantly getting battered. Us completely fresh with our suspensions being served, angry, upset at the world after Bologna not happening, after probably getting smacked by Napoli. I think we're going to come in and it'll be a 3-0, 4-0 victory.
Yeah, I don't have quite as much faith in this team to dish out a hiding yet. I do think we'll win, though. I do think we'll win. I don't think Monza are quite the same this season. It could end up costing Nestor his job. He's already on shaky ground, it seems. I do think we'll win, though. I think we'll win 2-1, but we'll go
There's
2-0
one thing this ownership loves. It's getting Milan legends fired. So
Yeah, I've got a little feeling already, and I want to mention it now. But I think Nesta could get sacked, and I think they could get Abate, who is second in it. Honestly, mate, just wait, just because obviously he knows Galliani too.
well,
Or
that's all he
maybe
does is go for those
yeah,
guys.
it
So I believe
seems
it.
to be that. Yeah. Yeah. So fingers crossed with that. Obviously, it's really difficult to predict the team. We don't know what's going to happen in the Napoli game. However, you've got to imagine Teo and Reinders come back in for that, having served their suspensions. Hopefully, Gabby is fit, but it doesn't appear that he's going to be. I just wonder if you got Napoli, Monza, Real Madrid. Like, might that be the dip game to rotate a little bit? But yeah, a couple of the stars have had some rest anyway. So let's wait and see. Got time for a couple of questions, or are you in a rush?
We can do 1 or 2.
Okay, 1 or 2 it is. JT Physio, this might be a one-word answer. Do you think Pulisic is now a top 5 right winger in the world?
Yes, but I am struggling to think of who. Yeah, potentially. Definitely in the
He ain't.
league for sure.
Yeah, numbers-wise, he certainly is. I think if you're going on form, and by form you can maybe say since the start of last season, he's right up there. I still think in terms of quality, please don't shout at me, Americans who are passionate about him. I still think in terms of quality and his overall game, he's not a Salah. He's not Saka.
Yeah,
He's not Cole Palmer.
I think Cole Palmer's overrated, just a penalty merchant, but
I think I give Palmer the edge at the moment. He's younger as well, quite a bit younger.
yeah. But
Although their numbers are pretty much like even, aren't they? I think. In
yeah, I
goal
mean, Cole Palmer has a lot. He's got a lot more since the start of last season. But again, it's because he had like
Pulisic should be
25
taking
penalties.
pens. If
He should
Pulisic had a backbone, he'd have more
Well,
penalty goals.
no, he wouldn't because we don't get enough penalties. Chelsea get 3 a game.
Yeah, should have had 2 against Fiorentina. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm looking at it
is he?
now.
If he
Lamine
is, he's fifth.
Yamal, okay, I put him up there.
Yeah, Rodrigo, I
Rodrigo,
like. Yeah, if
I
he's in
think
the top
Sane is
5,
still very good. Obviously, Salah.
yeah, yeah,
If he's not in the top 5, he's definitely in the top 10, top 7.
yeah. I think there's a chance, like, because people are going to mention stats, and stats are stats. Goal involvements. He's so important to us. Absolutely, he's scoring in big games as well. The derby, and he scored against Liverpool, and that might leave an impression. But I just think in terms of overall game, like I think he would be maybe 6th or 7th. And it's kind of difficult to imagine him rising because all the others feel so young.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if anyone's got a convincing argument as to why he's like 3rd, I will happily hear it. But I kind of like that he's going under the radar a little bit, not being spoken about too much outside of our circles, because that's when you start hearing the Liverpool wanting to replace Salah, and
But we did hear that.
we have heard that, but not from a good source. So
Yeah.
let's see. Right, this is a good one as well. Abdurrahman. After El Clasico, we saw Hansi Flick has installed a way of playing quickly, and our dear Fonseca is just talking, etc. We haven't seen anything wow yet. Is this the difference between a high-profile coach and a mediocre one?
Well, our dear Fonseca did beat this Hansi Flick's Barcelona side this season. I was there. So, I mean,
This bracket's pre-season.
yeah,
I saw
exactly.
Martino tweet that and get a lot of shit for it.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Barca's on fire. They beat Bayern and then won El Clasico convincingly back to back.
Yeah.
Didn't watch that game. I had far more important things to do, like sit on the couch and watch anything else. Yeah, but no, I mean, look, you can't compare the two teams. I'm sorry, they're just not the same. Yeah, if we want to go player by player, I think Barca's a better team as well.
Yeah.
And La Liga is objectively weaker than Serie A. I think people need to start recognizing that there's a
I'm
lot
not
more
sure I
competitive
agree with
teams.
that.
I don't think La Liga has that many competitive teams anymore. Obviously, Barca, Madrid. I don't even know where Atletico's at or Sevilla right now, but let's
Fourth.
take a look. Yeah, Villarreal's in third. I mean, come on, guys.
Like Villarreal won the Europa League.
Sevilla's in 10th. Like,
with Emery.
Girona's
no,
in 13th. They were up there last season. I just don't think they're.
I think the big three, Barca, Real Madrid, and Atletico, are better than all Serie A sides. We saw that they knocked in.
Though, right now.
Atletico knocked Inter out of the Champions League last season and deserved to do so. But then the rest, yeah, I think you can maybe average like median quality. I think they'd be pretty close. I do find La Liga quite a tough watch because they're so like technical possession based teams and it's like passing teams to death. I'm sure we're going to get shouted at for generalizations, but look at Girona last season as well. They literally competed for the title until like the last couple of months of the season, and now they're down in 13th, having been gutted. Valencia are bottom. Holy shit! Them getting relegated would be kind of mad. But yeah, look, Barca are flying. They've won 10 out of 11 league games, scored 37 goals. They put 4 past Bayern. They put 4 past Real Madrid. They put 5 past Sevilla the week before, 5 past Young Boys in the Champions League, 5 past Villarreal, who were third. But they lost to Monaco in the first Champions League game that they played. So it's like there's vulnerabilities with them too, I guess. I don't know. I've always liked Flick as a coach. If we could have gone for him, I definitely would have. I think the job he did at Bayern is underrated. Job he did with the German national team, pretty good. I like his way of playing. I didn't think it would marry well to Barcelona because Barcelona, we know what they're like the whole school of Cruyff and Guardiola and pass and move, tiki taka, all that shit. Whereas Flick is like German football. It's pressing, high intensity. We're going to work harder than the opponent. We're going to counter quickly. It's probably an antithesis of what Barcelona should want. And yet they are playing some really, really good stuff. But they're a very talented team. You know, Yamal, Lewandowski, still a top 5 striker in the world for me. We've seen that in the last couple of games. The midfield is just stock full of talent. Like the big advantage they have is their academy is ridiculously good. Churning out players that are ready at the age of 17. 16, 17. You know, we don't have that yet. You know, not while our Futuro are struggling as much as they have done. But yeah, I don't know. Can you distill the question down to, is Flick a better head coach than Fonseca? Yes. Yeah. Yes. I think that's the answer. Would I rather have Flick? Yeah, I would. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. With Fonseca, we got to see signs, right? The performances have to improve. The lows have to get higher. Like the floor has to raise and the ceiling has to raise as well, which is a tough ask. But let's hope we see it. Starting with these big next 3 games. Wrap it up there. Thank you for watching, everybody. It's been a long one. Let us know your thoughts on everything that we've discussed. Be back later in the week with another bonus episode. But in the meantime, I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. Find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher. AJ, cheers for joining.
Yep. I might be on the bonus. I should be. I typically am, but I wasn't last week, so
yeah,
change that.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, cheers. Have a good week, everybody.
Gol! Ancora Teo! È una meraviglia! Il gol di Teo Hernandez da un'area all'altra! È una meraviglia! Senti il mio cuore!